Journaling your trades can get you profitable, and I'm going to show you how. Journaling properly dramatically sped up my rate of progress, and it will for you too. And what's great, it's completely free. It's almost as good as a mentor. Hi, I'm Sam. I've been trading profitably for just a little over 3 months, so I'm still new to the game. I've not got any mansions or Lamborghinis to show you, but I'm just sharing my probably more realistic journey. This video is showing you how journaling my trades helped make me profitable in Forex and what you need to do to make sure you're using a journal the best way possible. And at the end, I'm going to answer the questions that you guys had from my Telegram. And if you're not in there, there's a link below to my free Telegram where I basically share all my trades I'm taking, what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, what I'm learning. I'm just sharing my journey. Okay, so feel free to get involved. Sometimes we open up a chat room as well, completely for free, where I let you guys ask me questions and even you guys just talk to each other. And it's a nice little community, completely free. So feel free to join below. So in a moment, I'm going to show you a template and I'm going to show you my own journal. But firstly, what is a journal? Well, it's basically a way of tracking your trades using a spreadsheet or a book or a notes app on your phone, or even just setting up your own Telegram channel and just posting it to yourself, anything like that. But it's basically a way of tracking all your trades and collecting data to, in the long run, see what is working and what is not working and try and do more of what does work and less of what doesn't. So it's quite simple, but a lot of people don't do it or they don't do it properly. I've used one since day one, and without one, I'm not sure where I'd be at all. If you're using your journal properly, you'll be able to collect all sorts of data. So bits like trade management, win streaks, losing streaks, what happens if you trade if you close the trade early, like all these things you can go back and look through, and hopefully that will then give you an indicator what works best. And what's more, it's statistics. That's proof. It builds a lot of confidence in yourself when you go into the next week trading, when you know that you're going to maybe tweak your approach a little bit, and you've got all this data from the last month or 2 months, which proves that if you trade like this, you're going to be a better trader. So what I want you to do now, if you're on your trading journey or you plan to soon, is just pause this video and have a think to yourself and write down 2 or 3 things which you would like to track. Okay, so what is the point in it? Why does a journal matter? Well, without one, you really are just trading off your experience and your gut feeling, which if you're new, you don't really have either experience or a reliable gut feeling at all. So even if you're profitable, it makes sense to continue to use a journal anyway, because the markets change, strategies change. You want to continue to adapt and improve. And then with all the data which you regularly check, you can look back and see which setups tend to work and which don't. It's also a great way for building confidence in the markets. There was a point just before I became profitable where I read through my journal and noticed that I win more trades on a break and retest strategy than off a bounce off a zone. And it was quite clear. You don't need to worry if you don't know what that strategy is. It's not important. But the point is, looking back through my trades that I took, there was one trade setup which was much more profitable than another one. And once I saw this, it was so clear that it then gave me loads of confidence going forwards to pay more attention to those setups and take them in the weeks to come. So let's have a look at my journal setup now. So first, I'm going to show you a pretty blank template with a few bits in there, and I'll show you my personal one afterwards. But I'll actually leave a link for this in the description for this document. It's just a Google sheet, which you can, if you need one, you can grab it and then you can sort of edit it and make it your own. Okay, so the first bit we're going to look at is a rules tab. Now, I aim to have 3 to 4 trading rules and no more personally. The more rules you have, the more the data can get a bit confusing because one rule might be working, one rule might also be working, but they don't work at the same time. It can get very confusing with which rule to track. So I aim to have no more than 3 to 4. You want your journal to be easy to read, not a pain or an effort. Then the goal from here is to trade using your rules and not necessarily to win at the start, but to just collect as much data as possible. Really start to see which rules tend to win and which rules tend to not really impact it much or even lose. So for example, here I have is price in a clear trend on the H4 time frame, has price broken a clear H4 zone and now come back to test it, has price rejected the zone for at least one candle. And then I've got a winning example here, which just reminds me and refreshes me. So you can see this is H4, it's in a clear trend, it's broken, it came back, it rejected the zone, and then that was the entry. And so that's a perfect example. You're not going to win every time, but that's a good example, something you can look back to, which can help you in your journey. And I also jot down things which I would like to track in the future. So here I could track results if I'm using the daily and the H1 time frame. Or another thing is, did I make my own decision to manage the trade, or did I just let it hit the stop loss or take profit? Did I trade within 1 hour of news? Anything, you can make it up, but you can just jot things down which you might want to know for the future. I also have a goals tab, and I think this is really useful. And this is something I didn't have at the start, which I've implemented recently. Here's just a little example. So here I've set 3 different goals with different time frames. It also helps to build habits. That's more what the goals should be, not necessarily to bring home a specific amount of money, but there is something about when you type out your goal rather than just think it in your head every now and then, it becomes much more real. And the effect that it had on me was just keeping me going to keep hitting those mini targets, as well as seeing it every day when you're checking with your journal or whenever you place a trade. This just keeps reminding you what the goal is, because it can get it's very easy to get caught up on the money and you have a few losing trades and all of a sudden you like want to quit. Okay, so here's just an example. So I'll track the pair, an entry on a screenshot of the entry on the daily time frame, a screenshot of an entry on the H4 time frame, then notes, which is basically anything to do with the trade, like the reason for entering really, and then maybe after the exit, you might want to note down something of why you exited or how it ended, anything that's useful. Green means it was a winner, red means it was a loser, and yellow means it was a partial loss. That's just something I do. You can also have like a completely clear one, which maybe could mean break even or a small win. I also personally like to make it quite easy to read, so I like to break it up by a week. So each week I will black out a whole column and then I'll enter my trades for that week. So, whatever. And then when the next week rolls around, I'll black it all out again. So it's quite easy to read and track back and look back to. I'll very quickly show you a demo of entering in a trade and data. So let's look at a chart. Okay, so here we are on USD JPY. I'm using it in the replay feature mode just so I can show you the whole thing, but it's the same if it was live or not. Okay, so it's rejected the zone, so I'm going to enter a buy. Now what you do is you get a screenshot link. So you open up here, you copy link. Okay, you now go back to your chart and you just type in the data. At the moment, this is an H4 entry, so we'll bang that there. I'll also get a daily entry. You then want to enter a reason for taking the trade, so it could just be H4 break and retest. Then you're just going to let the trade do its thing. So because we're in replay mode, we're going to fly through it and we're going to see what happens. Cool, it's a winner. Then what you do is, again, you screenshot this again, copy link, you go back to your template, you paste it in here. This is a winner, so we're going to go green. And then I also really like to use a 1 week later screenshot. This really helps to see if you got the direction right. Sometimes it will hit a stop loss, but the direction will still be right. And it's also very useful to see how often, if you close early, would you have won? Would you have lost, for example? How good is your intuition and trade management? So here it's about 1 week later. You can see there was potential for more profit. So that might be something you want to note down. And that's it. As simple as that. And then you get loads and loads and loads. And each week you track it back, you read through it, you see which bits work, see which bits don't work, and then you start to edit your trading rules. And over time, that compounds massively. 1 month, you might get a tiny bit better. Over 1 month, you might not notice a lot. You might have maybe changed one rule, or you might have changed no rules, and you might have even got a tiny bit worse. But over time, if you're journaling properly and you're checking the data weekly, you're going to keep getting better. So here, another tab I've got is a data tab. Now you can choose what to track for here. For the example, I've just got the trade result. So the win, loss, break even, or a small win or a partial loss. And we're just going to see, was it with the daily trend and the H4 trend, or was it only with the daily or only with the H4, or was it against both? And then from here, you can read back through your journal. You can check these screenshots of these entries. Here you can see this was a winner and you'd say this was maybe against the H4 trend, but you would say it's with the daily trend. So then here you just mark it down as only with the daily trend, one winner. And then these numbers will start to compound over time. And then you'll start to realize, hang on a minute, when I trade with both trends, that is the most profitable for me. When I trade against both trends, that's the least profitable. For example, it's different for each person. I've also made a little backtesting tab. This one, you really want to keep it simple. This is more to help build intuition. So you would go to the replay feature, you would put the link in, and then you would just highlight it green or red or yellow if it was a partial loss, etc., etc. You could also add a notes column here where you could then just jot down anything you notice. It's best for this, personally, from experience, to not jot down notes and notes and notes for every single trade. Just maybe do 10 backtest trades and then have a look at them all and see what you find in common and jot a few things down. Because remember, you want to keep it as simple as possible. You want this to be easy to read. You want to read it regularly. You don't want it to feel like a chore. Okay, I'm now showing you my journal for October. So it's similar to what I just showed you. So I have a pair, I have a daily entry, I have an H4 entry screenshot. I also have a column which I like to check, which is was it with the trend? So sometimes, quite often it's yes. Sometimes it'll be daily yes, which means obviously on the H4 it wasn't with the trend, but it was with the daily. This is something I'm personally tracking for me because I like to see which ones are most profitable. And then I've got my notes before and after. I just put in a reason for entering, and then there's my exit screenshot. So all the greens was a win, reds were a loss. And what I like to do in my 1 week later screenshot is I write down the max risk to reward I could have got if I'd extended the profit to the maximum on that run before the trade came back to a break even, if that makes sense. And then at the end of the week, I jot down the results. So at the end of week one, it was a 1R win because I won three and lost two. Week two was break even. Week three was a 1R win. And then week four was unfortunately a 2R loss. So the whole month for October was break even. If you're in my free Telegram and you've seen these trades from this week, you'll know that in fact the last two, New Zealand dollar CHF and GBP CAD, both actually went on to win. I decided to close New Zealand dollar CHF at break even, and GBP CAD was nearly at the stop, but it managed to end up winning. So if that turned around, then this month would have, instead of being break even, it would have been a 2R month, which I would have been happy enough with. Okay, so in a moment, we're going to go through a few questions that you had from Telegram, but I'm just going to give you my best tips for the journal, and hopefully this will help you. So number one is you want to keep it simple and easy to consume. I started by recording the specific day, the time, giving loads of screenshots. It was way too much. When I went back to look for it, there was too much conflicting data. The goal is to check it little and often. This helps your brain just absorb the information without it being overwhelming or like some sort of revision session. That's not the goal. By doing this, even after a few weeks, you'll start to get a feeling for what wins and what doesn't. Make sure that you get plenty of data. You could have a good strategy, but maybe you only win 3 out of your first 10 trades, so you call it quits and you think it was not profitable. When actually, if you'd kept going and maybe after 30 trades, you would have now won 17 or 18 and you're profitable. It depends on what time frame you use, but obviously the lower the time frame, the more trades you're likely to have in a shorter space of time. So I would say stick to your rules for at least 50 trades before thinking about changing a rule. You want to get at least 20 of these from live forwards testing on a demo account or a live account. Then you can get 30 or so from backtesting. Try not to go too far back in time when backtesting, no more than 18 months, just because the markets do change and you want your data to be as close to the real time as possible. For backtesting, you just go onto TradingView and you use the replay feature. There'll be plenty of videos about this on YouTube for free, but you can't do it on the free version, unfortunately, only the paid version of TradingView. Before I go onto your questions, I just want to say what metrics and data I have tracked, which was the most helpful for myself. Number one was letting the trades play out versus trade management. I used to have a trade management rule, like close early if the candle closes on the other side of a zone. But what I found was that initially that helped, but in the long term, that was not helping me. So it was good that I kept tracking that. Number two was a confidence score out of 10. This is better once you have at least 3 to 4 months experience, because at the very start, you won't even be sure if you're confident or not. If my confidence score was a 7 or lower out of 10, I would just not take the trade. And after doing that for a few weeks, that helped massively because that really stopped me taking trades just for the sake of it. Number three was win streaks and losing streaks. I've recently found that my worst losing streak is 4 in the last 4 months. That also only happened once, so it's very rare. If I decided to increase my risk after losing 2 consecutive trades, I would be more profitable over the last 4 months than I am now. And using the 1 week later screenshot, I don't think I'll ever get rid of that. This is so important. It really helps build confidence. Sometimes you may exit the trade early, only for it to go on to win. The good news is your strategy and your entry was right, so this can help you stick with it and leave the trade alone. Okay, so time for your questions. I'll pop them on the screen as we go. So most of your questions I've already really answered through the video, but Michael's asked about key points when journaling a loss. So when I started, every time I lost, I would note down something about my entry. But then after time, I've realized that sometimes the setup is right. You take the trade, but you still may lose. It's not going to be 100% win rate. If you lose a trade once, it doesn't necessarily mean it was a bad setup. But yes, usually the things I know were about the setup. Did I follow my rules? And why did the trade go the other way? And that just comes back to make sure really getting enough data to really be sure that that rule is not working. Neo has asked how often I go through it. Well, when I started, I would say it was every 2 to 3 trades. I would go back and look through them and see what they have in common. This would have been about twice a week, but now I review it over the weekend, really. So just once a week and whenever I need to. I might suddenly want to know how many trades lose if they go 50% to the stop, in which case I start looking through my exit screenshots and gather that data as soon as I can. Frederick asks how to analyze the data from the journal to improve. So this goes back to the bit from the template I shared with you. What you want to do is you want to basically add a column of the data that you want to collect. So for example, that could be, I want to know if my trade was with or against the daily trend. And then all you're going to do is you're going to add that column, and from all your future trades, and you can probably go back into your previous trades too and look at the screenshots, you can just say yes or no to whether it was in with the daily trend. And then you can start to collect and count that data up and see which seems to be more profitable. So thank you everyone for watching. I hope that was of some help. I quite enjoy filming these videos for you guys, and the Telegram's popping off, so that's great. Let me know in the comments if I missed anything or what you might want to see next time. And hopefully I'll see you in the Telegram for the free chats we're having each week. Cheers.